Right. It's going to happen now. So welcome to this face-to-face Zoom conversation with neighbors. We have David Little speaking about the ancient roads in Tamworth. He's here as one of the members of the road committee, and he'll tell you the other people that are on that committee. But welcome. And just another little quick thing, because David's sharing slides, I don't know if you're familiar with how to make yourself really tiny on the side. There's different ways to be watching Zoom depending on the device you're on. So if you're having any trouble seeing his images, you can make yourself really little on the edges. So David, thank you. Welcome.
Thank you. Well, thank you to the Cook Library for doing this, and many thanks for Amy for putting together this program to keep so many of us off the streets. And thank you all for coming along for the ride. When Amy asked if the Road Study Committee was interested, I volunteered. I'm not the best authority to represent the committee, but I have GIS software and I can illustrate some of the tools we've been using. Any mistakes and the opinions offered are clearly my own. The committee has been quiescent since the beginning of the pandemic, so this is an incomplete history of the history of roads, but still an adventure. What I have in mind is sharing my screen, which I'm going to try to do now. With some slides for background and some maps and some mysteries and more. And I apologize, this probably won't work if you're listening to audio only. On your Zoom screen, under View Options, if you can find it, you can hide Video Panel, and you'll be able to see the full-sized images. I'll start with a definition. A road is an easement held in trust by the town for the public benefit. It's not the underlying soil or the built road, so logical but not physical. Roads are quite valuable or expensive depending on your perspective. We spend 20 to 25% of the town budget on highways, but 62% of the CIP budget. So if I can advance the slide. Okay, so to start with the history of road committees, in 2006 at the town meeting, Dave Haskell offered a non-binding resolution calling for the appointment of a Class 6 road study committee. They began by meeting with Henry Forrest, who had been chair of the Madison Class 6 road study committee. There were a couple more meetings, but then the trail goes cold. I don't know if there were scheduling conflicts or personality conflicts, but the committee reached a dead end before the end of the year. In 2011, the selectmen were working on a Class 6 road policy. Part of the discussion was whether to write the policy first or have a list of the Class 6 roads first. That's still an open question because we don't have a policy and we don't have the list yet. So in 2012, 10 years ago next week, they appointed a committee. There's been some attrition, but my remaining esteemed colleagues are, in alphabetical order, Chris Conrad, Laura Lee Gerard, Dave Halprin, Paul King, and Ron Remick Jr. It was named the Road Study Committee at Paul's suggestion because, as I'll explain, you have to know the history of all roads before you can determine which ones are Class 6. Now, your obvious question should be, wait, what? Doesn't somebody already know where the town roads are? Well, we know what we know, and we don't know what we don't know. Yes, the road agent knows which road he plows. But as Obi-Wan Kenobi said, these are not the roads you are looking for. We're looking for the roads we don't know, the ones which got created and are legally still roads, if only on paper. Our mission is to complete an inventory of all the town roads. The Oscar Jewell collection is a terrific historical resource. It's digitized on the State Archives website. The state highway system began as a concatenation of various town roads, but it came without any documentation as a provenance showing their origin. So in the 1930s, there was a WPA-funded project to collect records of all town roads for all towns. Oscar Jewell wasn't an engineer or a surveyor. He was a retired merchant from Warner who had served as town clerk, school treasurer, school board member, and trustee of trust funds. He was hired as a research clerk working for the state land engineer in the right-of-way division of the highway department, supervising a group of engineers. Their methodology was the same as ours: transcribe the records, plot the road courses, and place them on a map. But with an important distinction. They already knew where the state roads were. They just had to find the matching documentation. Town records were shipped to Concord, where they were transcribed and then returned. Our primary source is a set of town records in the vault. We are blessed to have a complete set of records going all the way back to 1766. There are about 70 volumes. 11 are the town clerk volumes of town meetings, which contain the records of road creation. That's our primary source. The committee went through those 11 volumes and called out 350 items related to roads, far more than the 148 found in the Oscar Jewell collection, which only went through 1935. But because we also included anything related to bridges, funding, defeated or tabled articles, because those also often provide clues for where the roads are located. The count show 150 actions creating roads, but that doesn't mean that we have 150 roads in town. As a database administrator, I would say we have a many-to-many relationship between town meeting records and roads. Some actions create parts of multiple roads. Some roads are affected by many actions. For instance, there are 19 related to Great Hill Road and it's still missing some segments. Some were built as private roads and the town has no record at all. It's complicated. This graph shows the distribution of actions by pentad or 5-year increments. I've color-coded the ones we think we know in green, and the unknown ones are in red. Those are categorized as needs more research. Now, I'm an idealist and persistent, and so I think we can find all of these knowable unknowns. But we might need some help in places we're stuck. In the past, we've posted some road quizzes on the exchange, and those have been an excellent way to crowdsource answers for the things we don't know. This is an example of a road layout from 1798, described using bearings and distances. I picked this one at random, mostly because it would fit on one slide, but it illustrates several key points. Like all great literature, the description has a beginning, a middle, and an end. The starting point is between Henry Weed's shop and barn. It ends at the town line, well, some unspecified town line. The bits in the middle are more of an adventure. The stuff in the middle is what's called bearings and distance. I'm the only one on the committee who's never worked as a professional surveyor, but I'll try to explain. The directions are given in quadrant notations. Now, I was taught that a circle has 360 degrees, but here the numbers never go above 90. Half the time they go clockwise, and half the time they go counterclockwise. In this example, we're in the southeast quadrant. So you start at south and the numbers run counterclockwise. I wrote a macro to translate because I don't think like that. Distances are expressed in rods. The surveyor's rod is traditionally 16.5 feet. It was originally defined as the total length of the left feet of the first 16 men to leave church on Sunday morning. There's evidence that when Tamworth was laid out, an 18-foot rod was used, but that's a story for another time. And the 18-foot rod carried over into a few of the early roads. I used a GIS utility to plot the road after converting the directions and distances into what I'd consider real numbers. So here is the plot of what those 4 bearings and distances would be. Anyone who has looked at the jaunty angle of the map of Tamworth with that Bolivian bowler-style hat atop Mount Mexico has noticed that despite our charters, the sides don't exactly go north-south. That's because town lines were established before the magnetic North Pole was discovered in 1831. And magnetic north doesn't stand still. So we have to make corrections to compass readings from the past. And the adjustments are different depending on the date and place. Now, there are multiple algorithms that generate adjustments, and they vary. I have no idea how that works for times before we even know there was a magnetic north. We do need to keep some perspective about precision. The adjustments are calculated and given down to hundredths of a second. That's orders of magnitude more precise than the compass readings we're adjusting. In the set of all the road layouts, degrees are whole numbers in all but a half dozen instances. And there are only a dozen cases where distances used fractions of a rod or lengths. So there has to be some tolerance or fudge factor allowed. We can't go crazy given the equipment available at the time. And this is the place where I should give a caveat about using GIS. The magic is you can combine data from multiple sources. The risk is they will have different scales. And there's a temptation to zoom in, magnify them to a scale where things start to pixelate. By that point, you've gone way too far. The map is not the territory. The maps we're working with don't have any survey level accuracy. You shouldn't expect them to. So if I can find my next slide. Sorry, I'm brain cramping on where I'm supposed to be. This is not the right one. Sorry, I've got the wrong. I know. Sorry, I'm having a technical malfeasance here. How is that? Can you see a red line?
We have a yellow line.
A yellow line. Well, how about, can you see a red line there?
No, not right now. It's yellow.
Well, okay, so
Yellow line on a big mass of rock.
how about now? Can you see a purple,
Yes.
a red line now?
Yes,
Yes.
Okay, sorry about that. I forgot where I was.
that's okay.
Now we need to take the plot and put it on a map. Since this road runs northwest to southeast, it ends at a town line that would have to be either Eaton or Ossipee. We just need to locate Henry Weed's shop and barn. In the 1800 census, there were 3 Weeds in town, Nathaniel, Henry, and Elijah. One of them was a captain who lived at the north end of town, near where Scott's Road is now. We don't know which one. Nathaniel, the screw auger fame, operated a mill at Tamworth Iron Works. But without a visit to the Registry of Deeds in Dover, we don't know where Henry's property was in 1798. Find a grave lists his burial site in the Weed Cemetery in North Sandwich. Our answer in part comes from the votes at an earlier meeting in July of 1798. They voted $40 to build a bridge over Corway River near Henry Weed's mills, provided that the selectmen lay out a highway there. The location of Chicago River at the outlet of what we call Moore's Pond is 1/2 mile from the Eaton line, which would be the right distance. Well, where Tamworth thought the town line was. During this period between 1785 and 1808, the legislature responding to petitions appointed 3 separate independent committees to establish the boundaries between Eaton, Burton, Sandwich, and Tamworth. In each case, the decision was to be final. No changes were ever made. But in 1798, the selectmen of Eaton declined to perambulate the town line with Tamworth, so they might not have agreed about the location of the line. If we look at the 1932 USGS map, there's an old road that fits the layout of the road that we're talking about. So whoops. So if you look at this, this is the road that I think it is. And this road runs down towards Ossipee, where they were bringing the bog iron from. And this piece of road there in Madison is called Iron Ore Road. So it's not exactly a fit, but it's close enough for government work. Now, the one thing that we're not going to get is any on-the-ground verification, because this road now runs through Ski and Beach. go back to here.
Nice work, David.
Okay, so what became of the road? It's an important question because it's certainly not there now. There's one road action from 1874 which might have discontinued it, but no, this is my speculation as the committee still lists this one as an unknown. It would depend on what was called the Portland Road in 1874. There's only one other road description which references Portland Road. That was an 1809 article that mentions the Portland White Lake Road. It's the bit of Route 16 from the Ospey town line that forms the east end of what we call Depot Road, but it's further south. And the road we just looked at didn't even start at a road, but between Henry Weed's shop and barn. Plus, there's an important additional factor. In 1874, a town discontinuing part of a multi-town road needed approval from the Superior Court. We haven't yet researched the court records to know if that happened. If they exist, they might offer further insight on where the road was. So this one is still labeled as needs further research. Before considering other examples, I need to go through some of the other resources and rules we've used to increase your vast knowledge. This book contains the definitive resources on New Hampshire road laws. These are just two different editions of the same book. The earlier version can be found on the web as a PDF if you want to be a road scholar. My only wish is there was a similar volume covering the history of road laws. How are roads created? There are four separate ways. Most roads in town are created using the layout method, like the one we just saw. Originally by the selectmen, usually in response to a petition. Eventually a vote of town meeting became required. Dedication and acceptance is a two-step process. We see it in subdivisions like Secocas Pines or Mays Way. The developer sets aside land for a road, but it only becomes a town road after a town meeting vote. The only example of a road created by deed ownership that I can offer is New 25, where the state acquired land and then built the road. I can't think of any examples of town roads created on town-owned land. And prescription is the, if it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, method of road creation. This was repealed in 1968. But if there was open, continuous adversarial use of a well-established route for 20 or more years, it could become a public road. It also requires Superior Court approval. Here we go from the greater to classes. The legislative system of road classification is administrative, not functional. The first three are state roads. And I have no idea why one particular stretch of Cleveland Hill Road is a state highway, or why the town got no consideration when the state took Irene's Way in 2017. But for our purposes, the two important classes are Class 5, the roads the town maintains, and Class 6, the roads the town doesn't maintain. There's no legislative class for private roads, so they're not part of our study, except sometimes when they become town roads. And we're not discussing scenic roads, except to note that all roads in town are scenic. Before we get too far down the road, we should mention there are two ways Class 6 roads can be created. And in a bit, I'll show examples of both. The first way is by a vote at town meeting. The quaint language originated in 1925, but it's not defined by statute. It refers to an owner's right to enclose their premises to confine livestock. Say if a road ran through your pasture and you weren't inclined to spend the money to fence both sides of the road. It specifically does not permit locked gates because a town road remains open to the public. The other method is failure to maintain. That's the one that's tough to identify. Between 1850 and 1910, Tamworth lost 45% of its population. There was a lot of farm abandonment, and not everybody closed the door or discontinued the roads before leaving town. There are also roads the town laid out more than once without discontinuing earlier versions. The differences might be slight or significant, but all those versions are still legally town roads, even if only one of the routes is actually being used. So what happens after a road is created can change everything. This may look like a subway diagram, but it's not really as complicated as it looks. If you focus on the legend to the right. We start on the left with town roads and not town roads, because some roads are private, some apparently laid out by Burton, and some may be town roads that we just don't, that never got recorded. In the middle are the three subsequent actions which change a road's class or status: discontinuing subject to gates and bars, discontinuing it outright, and whether it gets maintained or not. So from the top, town roads that are created as town roads remain town roads. Or town roads that get created as class 6 roads, but then the town continued to maintain them, they'll revert back to class 6, back to class 5 roads. I don't think there's any examples of that. Class 6 roads are ones that get established as class 6 roads, or they're town roads that the town stops maintaining, and those also become class 6 roads. And then there are two sources of prescriptive roads. If a town discontinues a road but continues to maintain it, that could become a town road again. Or if the town maintains a private road, that could become a prescriptive town road. Again, it's got to be 20 years of use prior to 1968 and requires court approval. When the town discontinues a road, the land goes back to the landowner. The town has also voted to discontinue private roads, or roads that we don't have any record were ever town roads. Those also go back to private ownership. The one case I don't know how to classify is when the town votes not to discontinue a road that wasn't a town road. We have no record that it was ever created, but the voters didn't want to discontinue it. And I'm not sure what to call that one. And lastly, private roads that voters never mess with are still private roads. So what's all the excitement about class 6 roads? Well, roads are persistent. As the song lyric says, the road goes on forever and the party never ends. Susan Slack's more legal version is, quote, once public rights of way are established, the rights of the public should last indefinitely unless a formal decision is made to discontinue them. Class 6 roads can be quite valuable. The towns don't have any authority to spend money maintaining them, so part of the value may be that there are benefits the town doesn't spend any money on. They can be wonderful recreation resources, and I'll show you a couple of well-known examples. There are also folks on the internet who will sell you maps of class 6 roads for $200 a pop that are electronically protected so they can't be copied. And others who will lead you on off-road adventures if you like mud and need encouragement. So they're capitalizing on this public benefit. Class 6 roads also can prevent lots from being landlocked. Now, Tamworth may not have any zoning, but the state prohibits development unless you have road frontage on a class 5 road or better. Class 6 roads may qualify, but with some restrictions. And that's the topic that the selectmen were discussing back in 2011. Class 6 roads are public ways, but they're not freeways. All the costs fall on the landowners, and that can create quite a hardship. In 1993, there was a vote to close off class 6 roads during mud season to prevent erosion. That probably wasn't legal because public ways have to remain open. The objective of the study is to come up with a complete list of class 6 roads. Now, all those roads are going to be on somebody's property. And I don't care where you are on the scale from property rights advocate to public access defender, it could come as a shock if you suddenly find out there's a road through your dooryard or through your house. Some sleeping roads will become public windfalls, others battlegrounds. Personally, I think we need to be sensitive to those impacts before they happen. I hope we have a plan for how the town will handle the list before it's created. Now, before I go through some of the other research resources we've used, I want to travel back and look at the content analysis of the town records we're examining so you can see what we're working with. Only about half of the roads contain bearings and distances, such as the one we plotted. And even when they do, the beginning and end points are just clues which need to be interpreted. But the roads that are text descriptions only, everything has to be interpreted. So I extracted all the attributes, and there are about 900 clues in the complete text. I categorized them. Now, the descriptions must have all seemed patently obvious at the time. This is sort of like a four-dimensional jigsaw puzzle. We have these pieces of different sizes, some with crooked shapes, and you may think you recognize. But the other clues mean different things at different times. In my family, it's not considered good form to look at the picture while we're doing a jigsaw. In this case, that's not an issue since there's no picture. Our task is to construct one. Roads usually aren't given names before the 1900s. Occasionally there's, quote, the Northern Road or the Upper Road. More often it's the road to the bridge, without saying which bridge, or the road from the meeting house, which could be going in either direction. One thing we learned from If Walls Could Speak is that people don't stay in the same place. They move around a lot, and family names and titles get recycled. At one point, there were 4 Lieutenant Gilmans, and the place names keep changing. I have a quiz, which I'll put up at the end, of 33 hill names used on various maps and in the articles. The question is, how many you could place on a map? I certainly can't locate them all. So these are 3 different volumes of the same book, and it's a great resource for finding out where people lived. We have a map and with the GPS locations, and Dave Halprin constructed an index of over 1,000 names with the dates and map keys from the house ownership histories. It's been invaluable for locating people if they happen to live in one of those 111 houses. There are also 3 maps annotated with names, which give complete snapshots of where everybody lived at moments in time. They're all too large and detailed to work on a screen, so I'll show 3 details of Tamworth Village for comparison. Henry F. Walling was a prolific map maker from Rhode Island who made exquisite town and city maps across New England. This is from his Carroll County wall map. It's in the town office building, and it's here in the library in the Ulitz room. At the time, he was working in New York making county maps, supervising a team of surveyors who did odometer surveys. We're lucky he got this one done, as the Civil War shortly deprived him of all of his skilled workers. There's 368 names listed. In 1982 Hurd map, Dwayne Hurd was an author and a publisher who mostly did local histories filled with self-authored ego pieces of people who wanted to see their names and likenesses in print. He wasn't really a cartographer and only produced town and city atlases for Connecticut and New Hampshire. His maps have highly smooth, idealized lines, so they aren't detailed or particularly valuable cartographically, but the names are easy to read. And the 1932 TCNA map was a collaboration of multiple sources. The base map was the USGS map, which had just been released. The history and names were provided by a summer resident, the droll Yankee Peter Killam. The cartouches in the corners were done by Frank Hinder, an Australian artist who had come to this country to continue his art education and was looking for summer work. This map is unique as it has current and many former owner names for 537 locations. LiDAR is my new favorite thing. It's like the electron microscope of mapping. Explaining would take too long, so I'll just offer 2 images of Tamworth Village as examples. We'll use LiDAR to see more details later. The first image is the digital surface model, which shows the trees, the buildings, the vehicles, and everything. You can see who's parked on Main Street. You can see who's parked in the parking lot behind the town offices. The second image is the bare earth. It's the exact same location, but an algorithm has been used to scrape everything off above ground level. So you don't see the buildings, you don't see the trees, you don't see the vehicles, you just see the bare earth. It's not very valuable in the village, but I wanted to show it for comparison because these really are exactly the same spot. So there are a couple of sources of other Class 6 road studies. The first is Madison. They took a different approach than Tamworth did because they don't have a complete set of records, so they couldn't do a paper search. Instead, the Madison Committee collected evidence and affidavits from knowledgeable townsmen about the historic use of 44 roads and deemed them to be prescriptive Class 6 roads. I want to be neighborly, so I'll just make two comments. The first is about a 2010 state Supreme Court decision. And this is not meant as criticism of Madison, since that was 10 years after their study was completed. The court ruled that since prescriptive roads involved a form of eminent domain taking of property rights, they must be approved by the Superior Court. No selectman or town committee has the jurisdiction to do that. Second, you'll note that some of the Class 6 roads on Madison's map go into other towns. Now with roads, what happens in Madison stays in Madison. Only Tamworth voters have the jurisdiction to establish roads in Tamworth. I know this has caused some consternation and confusion for some, including the Tamworth selectmen, but it needn't. Madison roads end at the town line, enough said. There's a summary of the Madison study in their 2000 town report, which can be found on the web. I haven't been able to find any other town Class 6 road studies, but this poster is from the Vermont Act 178 in 2006. We can learn several things from their experience. I started by cribbing their GIS tools. Most states have laws which allow ancient roads to die a dignified death. Like New Hampshire, Vermont didn't. 15 or 20 years ago, there were a number of messy lawsuits in Vermont when landowners discovered an unknown ancient road ran through their dooryard or where they planned to build a house addition. Title searchers that only go back 40 years won't find a road layout from 200 years ago. So to quiet these claims, the state passed a law and gave towns 3 years to document their ancient roads they wanted to keep, and all the rest would get discontinued en masse. Being Vermont, the state supplied towns with technical guidance, funding for research, and mapping assistance. But still, each town had to do their own research, and skills varied. One advantage they have in Vermont is that property deeds are kept locally at town hall. Some towns opted out and let everything expire. 90 towns added 150 miles of ancient roads and 250 miles of legal trails to their official maps. The law was amended and they actually generated a new category named, and I'm not making this up, they identified a category, unidentified corridors. But that didn't quell all the lawsuits. They may actually have generated some. People will always object if they think their property rights or their freedoms are being limited. So if road studies get challenged, the documentation needs to be impeccable. Let's go back to Tamworth. We'll look at two examples of creating Class 6 roads. First a summary and then the map. The first was created by a vote at town meeting. The road along the east side of Chicago Lake was laid out by the town in 1800. Based on the description, the route probably was a road that already existed. When New Hampshire first established the state highway system, this became part of the Eastern Trunk Line Highway. This picture is a 1932 postcard showing the road and the beach. Later, the state relocated and widened the road, moving it back from the shore. In 1951, they returned the original section of road back to the town as a Class 5 road. There was a 1979 article to close the road, but that failed. But in 1980, the town meeting voted to create a Class 6 road. We can use two USGS maps to show those differences, if I can find it. And I can't. Sorry, I'm brain cramping here. I apologize. I'm again having trouble getting back to where I want to go. You'll have to bear with me. Here we go. How about this? Can anybody see Shakara Lake?
Yep.
Yeah.
To the lake.
Okay, this is the USGS map from 1932 showing Shakara Lake. And you can see the road running on the eastern side of the lake. And here you can see the 1986 version. So I will show the roads and the class 6 roads. So in pink, you have the class 6 road. And in black, that's where the current highway is. So they moved the black shows where they moved the highway back to in the 1950s. And then they returned what's now pink back to the town as a class 5 road. And then in 1980, the town voted to make that a class 6 road. So now I will go back, if I can go back to. Okay. The other example is Locks Falls Road in Wanalancet. So that's a picture of Wanalancet Falls or Lock Falls. And the map is a piece of the WODC map showing the Brook Trail, which is a convenient way to get to the falls. But note, it's the Brook Path, not the Brook Trail. I misspoke. Don't take the Brook Trail because you'll end up on Mount Chikarawa. And if you're going to do that, you're probably better off going up the Liberty and coming down the brook. So the Lock Falls Road originated in the mid-19th century. The first section went to Joshua Folsom's house. And then in 1851, the selectmen, based on a petition, extended it to the present Route 113A. And I'll show that in a moment. In 1852, there was an article to discontinue that previous layout, but we can't find a vote on that. In 1861, they did discontinue the east end. And then in 1991, there was an article to change Locks Falls Road back to class 6 road, along with Meter Road and Breakneck Hill Road, but that didn't pass, it got tabled. So now if I can go back to, how about this one? No, this one. Sorry, that's the wrong one. You'll have to bear with me. How about this? Okay, can anybody see a map of Wanalancet?
Yes. That's
Okay.
it.
Yeah, okay, this is the USGS map of Wanalancet. And you can, so you can see (113A), and this is what the state used to consider Lock Falls Road. But we'll go through what they actually did. This is the LiDAR. And if you zoom in, if I zoom in, you can see the ditch south of Helen's Field. This is Locks Falls Road. And this is 113A. So this is the first piece that the selectmen laid out, or that the town laid out, 1,750 feet to Folsom's house. And then this is when they extended the road up to 113A. So that's Rich Colcord's house and Dave Bull's house, and that would be Mount Mexico Road. So this is the piece that they extended. And then they discontinued it to a house site, which is right there. So that's the piece that got discontinued. So the current class 6 road, which the town stopped maintaining, should be from 113A to where that star is, where that cellar hole is. That piece got discontinued. The confusing thing is that the state now shows the state now shows that as the class 6 road and this. And I think that I don't think they've looked at the LiDAR if they think that that road is actually, this is actually a road going down there. I suspect they're thinking that there's a house, the Foy's house there, which comes in from a different direction. So I think the state is confused, but that's my opinion. So now if I can try to go back to so I've got, yeah, if I've got some time, I've got some other examples that I could show, but why don't I just finish up first? Are we there yet? Well, we're almost done with the slides, but we're not really already almost done with the study. As of February 2020, we still had 44 items listed as unknowns, meaning they need further research. Of those, 11 are discontinuances and 14 are layouts. These are the flat tire on the wheel of life. Logically, we can't make an accurate list of class 6 roads if 11 of them may have already been discontinued. Nor would an inventory of roads be complete if there are 14 more roads to be added to the list. Solving these is going to take more research. Now, maybe someone who remembers town meetings from the late 60s or early 70s could tell us about the articles concerning Washington Hill Road that occurred then. Some of the unknowns depend on state DOT records, and I have to say the annotations and descriptions of those have to be looked up because they're even more confusing to me than the bearings and distances. The names from before 1840 are going to require research at the Registry of Deeds in Dover. To date, the members of the committee haven't had the skill or time to pursue that. It always seems like a registry too far. Unlike the Carroll County Registry, their history isn't available online. There are also a number of legal questions that need to be answered. Did the Superior Court approve any of the discontinuances? And what do we do with the potential prescriptive roads? But the big question I would have is what do we do in preparing a report to protect the town from lawsuits similar to what Madison or towns in Vermont experienced? Now, I worked on some big projects, but never one that lasted 10 years. And producing a final report, something this extensive, is going to take considerable time. So far, we have an all goals divided into 3 parts type of outline with 3 different volumes envisioned because you want to look at things multiple different ways. What we've been doing so far is going through the list sequentially 3 or 4 times, identifying each action and trying to locate where it fits. But that's just laying out the pieces. That's pass 1. Then we need to assemble all the bits relating to each road and write up a description. Sort of like what we looked at for Old Route 16 or Loxhall Road, except I skipped all the text in the narrative parts. Chris Conrad has done a half a dozen of these, but many more remain. Drafting, editing, and compiling a final report would be a lot easier with skill sets that the current committee doesn't have. And costs. They've only let us go so long, not out of kindness, I suppose, but because we haven't spent any town money. Steps like seeking legal advice or producing a report will take a budget. We've never had one. There are a number of challenges that remain. There are Scribner's errors. Some layouts are clearly missing. Some layouts are physically impossible. They're either too short or they travel through the lake. There are references to roads created by Burton, but we don't have the layouts. Some votes are missing. All these issues need to be addressed before drafting the report or while drafting the report. So that's all I have. I do have one quiz. I have some other layouts that we could look at, but I'm kind of running out of time. So this is a quiz of 33 hill names that appear either on the maps or in the warrant articles. And the quiz is to see how many of these you could locate on the map, because I know I can't find them all. But that's all I got. So I'm going to stop sharing and we can deal with any questions.
I'm trying to get there. If somebody's raising their hand or anything, I'm trying to get to where I can see everybody. And anyone,
Becca's got her hand up.
Becca and Jeff, go ahead and,
I'm curious about Breakneck Hill Road, which I can locate and identify, but I'm interested in it because it is part of the boundary of Tamalanwich, which is the principality of North Sandwich, Wanalancet, and West Tamworth. And so I'm trying to figure out where that road is.
You're trying to find out where Breakneck Hill knows, yeah, where Breakneck Hill Road is?
Yeah,
It's south of Great Hill Road, to the
What the-
Sandoz property.
right. But does it continue all the way down to Cleveland Hill Road?
That's a very interesting question. Chris Conrad has done a write-up on that. There's parts of it that never got laid out, so parts of it are prescriptive. It's complicated.
Just what you need for a principality boundary.
But I can, Chris has done a write-up on that, and I could email that to you if you want.
Oh, that would be very cool.
Yeah. David, this is Scott. Can anybody hear me?
go ahead, Scott.
Yeah, I can show you. It's right across from Willie Farm's house, and it comes out the foot of Alfred Day's Hill on Brown Hill Road.
No, that's not,
Oh,
that's
no,
wrong.
no, John Damon. It goes in right by Sandoz, and then comes that. That's Breakneck Hill. I'm thinking of the other one. What's the other one's name?
Dow Hill Road.
Dow Hill Road.
I
So
can
I
show
think-
that one if people want to see that one.
Is that a class 6 now? No,
No, it's been discontinued.
right.
Put to us.
Kathy, go ahead. Kathy, did you have something?
My question was about Break Hill Road. Where did it come out on Cleveland Hill? It's always very intriguing. It kind of stops right at the property. So I just wondered how it continued south.
Goes right through to where John Damon's little cabin is.
Got it. Thank you very much.
And it goes up and hooks onto Sandoz driveway. Yeah, and that's open and maintained for skiing, by the way. I do that. Yep.
Ah, interesting. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a beautiful road. It's fun.
So can I share my screen to show Dow Hill Road?
Sure.
Yeah, I'd like to see that. Some great bridge abutments on the Mill Brook there. Oh, look at that.
So can anybody see a text?
Yeah,
Yes.
we see the text.
Right, okay, so this is the description of what we call the Dow Hill Road, and you know, it doesn't have any directions or distances.
Right,
So you gotta be able to figure out where all these people lived.
right.
So this is an excerpt of the Walling map, the 1862 Walling map. And you can see here, this road there, right?
Right,
That's the Dow Hill Road.
right.
And then here's the Herd map, also shows the map. You can see how he's idealized the lines.
Right,
And then this is a little crooked. This is the Alonzo McCrillis plan from 1894, which also shows the same road.
right,
So you got Millbrook running sort of across it and then down.
right.
And then it got discontinued in 1917. It got discontinued as the Dow Hill Road. So
It's funny, along that road, you come into a clearing and there was all these old farmhouses and the clearing has been kept clear, but you can see all the foundations. That must be some of the names of the people that lived there, I'd have to say.
oh, wrong one, sorry.
Just downhill from Willie's and along the edge of that big field.
Okay, no, we're on.
Oh,
we
that's
gotta
okay.
mute,
No,
No, we have
no,
to
no,
mute.
just-
So
Go ahead, anybody. I'm having a hard.
Okay, so this is the Dow, this is the Dow Hill Road on LiDAR. So this is Breakneck, yeah, this one here is Breakneck Hill Road.
right,
It comes down further, but this is what we think is the Dow Hill Road.
right,
And John Cleveland confirmed that they used to, I mean, I think if you go in close enough, you can see the Dow cellar hole there.
Oh, yeah, okay. Wow.
So it clearly used to be part of property lines. That's no longer part of property lines,
Right,
except I think that the southernmost piece of it might be.
yes, that's correct,
But the rest of it, the property lines have been moved.
right.
And then Breakneck Hill Road, I don't have I'm not prepared here for I just should send you Chris's because I don't have that laid out.
Cool. So have you plotted the various places that's what is now called Cleveland Hill Road, what I think of Stevenson Hill? Did it go the other side of the big Cleveland house? My understanding is that was moved when the big Cleveland house was built and the original road went on the south side of the big house.
No, it went on the east side, and there's a stone wall you can see up in the field, and that's where the old road went.
You do? Oh, you had it up there. It was up there.
It's okay, we'll shut off. No big deal.
Lucy.
So,
one thing I'd like to say, you know, I think this program's great. I've been involved a little bit with it. When we were discussing what to do about Class 6 roads, a perfect example is the road across from my house, the Dow Road. If that was still a Class 6 road, at one point, the state came in to do a timber harvest and they were given permission to use that road. But there was never a clause in there that they must maintain it with water bars adequate to help with any storm that may arise. And so that road got washed out. And today there's no way that you could even, well, you can walk it, but it's pretty tough walking. It got very washed out and was a shame to lose an access point to a piece of property. Had the town had some oversight on use of Class 6 roads, which really there is very little today, they might have been able to avoid that situation and the road would still be in decent shape today. And that's sort of where the road study and the Board of Selectmen came together. I think it was, as David said, in 2011, was to try and see who's going to go first. And neither one seemed to be quite ready, which may be a good thing.
Yeah,
So the Downhill Road is not a Class 6 road. It got discontinued in 1917. So.
Right. But if it had have been a Class 6
yes,
road,
if it had been, right.
right. And there are Class 6 roads that people use now for accessing their houses or for logging. And so any one of those Class 6 roads could be further damaged by misuse, not intentional, but just the way life happens.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what the town voted on in 1993. It just wasn't legal.
right. I was a part of that, David.
I know you were.
Because
Well,
we had a situation on Durrell Road or Hackett Hill Road.
Yeah.
Where as landowners, we fixed that road up and then these Jeep guys would go up there in the wrong time of the season. And I got into a fight with Emery and I said, really got to close this off, but he wanted his buddies to go up there hunting. And we proposed that article, but I guess it failed or whatever, but.
No, the article passed, Scott. It's
Oh, it
just not legal. The
it's not
town
legal.
cannot close a Class 6 road.
But for a while, we did close it, though.
I know, but I'm just saying, not legally.
Not legally.
So the selectmen can regulate Class 6 roads, but they can't close them. So you can put weight limits on it. There's different things. You can regulate the way you can regulate any road, but.
Well, one thing that the landowners end up closing it via cutting trees down across it, so people couldn't get up there.
Yeah, no, that's.
That's legal. Maybe, I don't know.
So we have a couple questions. I think Jean Williams, you had a question and then there's one in the chat. And Dexter, are you wanting to ask too? Yeah. So we'll go Jean and then Dexter and then the chat.
Thank you. I'm just curious as to the status of the road behind my side of Great Hill, David, that runs behind Kit's house and my house.
So you're talking west of Great Hill?
As you head up the hill, it's on the left. Sorry.
By Sam Hiddens?
Yeah, in
Yeah.
front, yeah.
Right. Used to go right through, it went right through Sam's driveway, as I understood, and then there was a road, came out on Cleveland Hill Road right by the cemetery.
And there's still lots of great walking paths by there, and I'm sure they go through Damon's property, but there's clearly an old road that still not a lot
absolutely.
grows on.
Right,
Yeah, no,
right.
that's Huntress Road. That
Huntress.
used to be, before Great Hill Road got established, that was the north-south route, Huntress Road.
Right,
Okay,
Went north of Hollow Hill Road.
yes.
yeah.
It went straight up north from Hollow Hill Road. And that used to be the way. And then,
Right. And that road's still pretty much intact, because I maintain it.
Oh, you do? Well, thank you, because we enjoy it.
Oh, good.
Dexter, you want to go next?
Sure. Do you have any information on Osgood Road? It's a class 6 road that has at the end of it a bridge, what remains of a bridge
Abutment. Yeah.
that connects, I think, to Railroad.
That's right.
right.
In the summertime, I can walk across the river and go up. Do you have any information on that road?
Yeah, that's one that we have. I mean, I think the question is where Osgood actually lived. It's a class 6
There are
road to a
some
certain
cellar holes.
cellar hole. And I think
Right.
the outstanding item is locating which cellar hole it is.
But there's
So-
there's a unique esker where that road falls on the top of. I mean, it's a pretty cool road when you go down in there and check it out. It's like a 50, 60-foot esker that runs out, and that's where the road's on top of that before it crosses.
Correct.
It's
And
just,
if you continue.
yeah, pull that up on LiDAR, David.
If you along
Out soon.
that esker, you come to Putnam, that, sorry. Where are we? I understood that it was once a road that went to Meredith. You know anything about that?
I don't know about that. So
Yeah, they can see the esker there now.
Scott, help me out. This is Osgood Road, right? This is Hollow
Right.
Hill Road.
Right, but then it goes all the way down the Millbrook,
Right.
right on top of that esker. I mean, that esker is
Right.
pretty amazing to see.
Yeah, so it used to connect up to what is Durrell Road, Hackett Hill Road.
Right,
And that's one of the most convoluted roads in town in terms of the number of different layouts for it, and who knows. So I think that I think the question is how far the class 6 road goes, and it goes to somebody's cellar hole, which,
could be right about there, yeah,
yeah.
on that flat area.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not entirely impressed that the state has the limits of the class 6 roads correct, but they're saying that's a class 6 road, but clearly you can see, you could keep on going.
Right, you can see the road there. I mean, it's amazing.
I was told that it originally went to Meredith. Do you have any information on that? That somewhere along Osgood Road, there was a tavern, and there, as you're walking toward Durrell Road, on the right-hand side, there are double cellar holes that I was told at one point was a tavern. And on the left-hand side, there was a cellar hole that was somebody's house. There's a well there, and there's a cellar hole remains.
Yeah, no, that was a very populated place, but not going to go to, not going to go outside of Tamworth, so.
Well, it probably hooked into a road that went to Meredith. I mean, it didn't go up over the south side of the,
It's going to hook into Durrell Road, Hackett Hill Road, which
Right.
didn't go out of town.
Dexter, you have to ask.
Yeah, one thing that's interested and puzzled me has to do with just the word hill and how lots of these roads, like Page Hill Road and Hackett Hill Road and Brown Hill Road, I know where the hill is, and I know where the top of that hill is. Some of them have a summit, right? But lots of others, it seems like they're hilly, but I wouldn't have described, Pease Hill Road as going over a hill, or Hollow Hill Road doesn't seem like it ever gets to the summit of a hollow hill. And I wondered if maybe hill just kind of meant neighborhood in some instances.
Absolutely right, because he didn't have Henderson Hill on that list. And
Oh, Scott, Henderson Hill.
Henderson Hill, yes.
Yeah, I mean, I think they were all local names where somebody lived someplace and going up towards that person's house, that's a hill.
Yeah.
Could be a little knoll. Yeah. Yep.
Thanks.
One of the,
In the chat, Juno asked, or Chris, David, were you saying Huntress Road or Hunters Road?
Huntress. Huntress.
Okay, thank you.
And of course, that they didn't name the roads back then. None of the roads got named. So those are names that people applied later.
Margaret Reeser asked, what are some of the amazing or cool things you guys have all discovered?
Well, I have to say it's pretty cool when you find a layout that you can't figure out where the heck it goes, and then all of a sudden you look on LiDAR and you can see this is exactly where it goes.
Right, it's amazing how the old timers that lay these roads out use the topography and geography to their advantage.
Well, that really is impressive when you look at the ones that have remained. I mean, there's also roads that they laid out 5 or 6 times to try to get them right.
Yes.
But some of them, they just laid them out and they're just perfect.
Right.
Don Gottman writes, one of the things that the old photos and paintings show is it just disappeared, is the town. Oh, wait a second, it went away.
When it was all fields.
Yeah, rather than forests, and then you can see where the hills are.
Yeah, but see, I still don't think there are 33 hills in town, but that's just my opinion.
Before we're done, Lucy wants to see the road name and the hills again. And I did take a picture of that, and we could, maybe everybody gets their camera out and can take a picture of your quiz.
Or I can post it on the exchange if you want.
That'd be great. People would love that.
I'll point out that Cleveland Hill and Stevenson Hill are the same hill.
Right, right. Well, Stevens Hill is like on top of the hill. Cleveland goes up to the Cleveland place, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, I thought Stevenson Hill was in Sandwich myself.
It is now, but that whole road was called Stevenson Hill before the Clevelands were here because it was named for a certain president.
You're hearing Boydens who have a lot of opinions about this.
You know, actually, the original name of that road was the Grover Cleveland Memorial Highway. And it was just it went up the hill where the beautiful stone wall is. And then it just gradually absorbed the entire thing. But I've noticed that even if you go back to that 1931, 32 USGS map, it's already saying Cleveland Hill instead of Stevenson Hill on the map, which is heartbreaking in my mind, but there you go.
There are some fantastic pictures of when that wall was first built, when all of the area was cleared and you could see across the road. I mean, there was no trees there at all.
Mm.
Where are those pictures?
Well, they're on I have them. We're on the internet. I can send them to somebody if somebody wants them.
Well, what would I Google? Cleveland Hill pictures or?
Is that Don?
Yeah.
I'll send them to you, Don.
Okay, thanks.
We all want them.
So I have an interesting trivia note to say. If anybody doesn't like the names of the roads that are on the signs now, you can blame Willie and I, because back when the 911 came in, we had a hearing and to name the roads in town, and only Willie and I showed up. So he and I named all the roads in town that are on the green marker. So if you have a complaint, it's.
And I've got to defend myself. We had to go back and make a few corrections. Isn't that right, Rebecca?
Yes, yes, indeed, and you were extremely gracious about it.
All right.
And so Scott, I'll just make my complaint right now.
Okay.
So the only road that there was ever a town meeting vote to name was Fowler's Mill Road from 16 to 113A.
Huh.
So that one really should be named Fowler's Mill Road, because the town voted for that. I don't know how you guys got away with renaming part of it.
I don't, well, good question.
I think it was a dynamic.
Renamed the Chinook Trail because we were for a while in the 1990s, some awful name, but at least you guys recognize that Chinook should be recognized.
Yeah, for the most part, I think we got it nearly right. I don't know.
How about Hoag Road versus Meter Road?
Yeah,
Maybe that back.
Well, one of the things that we found when we were doing it was they really didn't want any road by a junction to have the same road name. It was all about trying to be able to find people on a certain section of road, which they could identify. And probably Fowler's Mill could have been worked out to stay Fowler's Mill all the way from 113A to Route 16, but we didn't.
Okay, I'm also going to complain that you got multiple Gilman roads or multiple Pine roads. You know,
oh, yeah, that's true.
that really is, my naming convention dictator says you can't do that.
And you're absolutely right, David, but we weren't that smart back then.
That's right. We're only a committee of 2 and we were doing the best we could.
What was it called before it was the Chinook Trail?
Oh, gosh. Swift River Road? I don't know. No.
HC 64 or something awful like that.
Okay. Anyway.
Maybe David, somebody's asking if you could send some of those cool pictures to the library and we could put those out on our website or have
Sure.
it to your pictures.
Better idea.
Access to them. Chris and Juno say signage killed one of the most fun games we ever played with Flatlanders.
But this road doesn't go anywhere. It stays right here.
I should have told that joke about the Portland Road. You can take this road to Portland, but I think they got enough roads there already.
There you go. David, I have to say, this is the most amazing research and very fascinating. I can't thank you enough for, using the technology and integrating the records. It's just absolutely fascinating.
I agree. It's amazing.
Yeah. We're all giving you a big clap.
Kudos.
Yeah.
Really excellent, David. Couldn't have done it without you.
Thanks to everybody on the road committee that's been working on this for a really long time. That's great.
Yeah, unbelievable. Thank
Still
you.
can't get there from here.
No, can't do that. Yeah.
Thank you, David.
Yeah, thanks so much, everyone.
Yeah,
Thank
Paul,
you.
do you want to add anything?
Oh,
Paul King?
Yeah, Paul. Nope, maybe he's not on. Oh, he is?
I'll just let you know that next week will be the Cold Water Dippers talking about what they've been doing and sharing some of their stories. It's become quite a group of people. So that will be what we'll be doing next week. But thank you, David, and thanks to everybody
Yes, thank you.
added to this conversation tonight. It will be up on our website probably by the end of the week.
And Amy, thank you and the library for organizing these. They're great.
Yeah.
Yes. Guys. David, thanks again.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Thank you, David.
Woohoo.